I live on the fourth floor of a narrow, leaning apartment building that overlooks a sleepy intersection on the edge of town. The street outside is nothing special. Cracked asphalt, one flickering streetlight, and a bus stop shelter with graffiti scrawled across its plexiglass panels. Most nights, it's dead silent by 11 p.m., save for the distant hum of tires on the highway a few blocks over. My window faces east, which means I get the first light of dawn. It also means I see everything that happens on that street below, which, until recently, wasn't much. Maybe an old man walking his dog at night, or the occasional drunk stumbling home from the bar. It was always background noise, the kind you forget as soon as you blink. 2 weeks ago, I woke up around 2 a.m. to get a glass of water. On my way back to bed, I paused at the window. I don't even know why. Maybe I heard something, or maybe I just wanted to check that the world was still there. That's when I saw him. A man, standing perfectly still under the streetlight. He wasn't moving, not swaying like someone waiting for a bus, not pacing like a lost drunk. He was just standing there, arms at his sides, head tilted up, as if he was looking right at me. But from 4 floors down, I couldn't be sure. His clothes looked normal enough, a long dark coat, maybe jeans, black shoes. But something about the way he held himself made my skin crawl. I ducked away from the window. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt wrong to be seen watching him. Maybe because it felt like he was waiting for me to notice. I peeked again a minute later. He hadn't moved an inch. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept imagining him, standing there hour after hour, until the sun came up and burned him away. By morning, he was gone. The street was empty again, the world back to normal. I told myself it was nothing. Just a drunk guy. Just a coincidence. But the next night, he was back. Same time. Same place, same posture, standing under the streetlight like a statue. And this time, I was certain he was looking at me. His head was tipped up at the exact angle of my window. I swear I could feel his eyes on mine, dry, distant, unblinking. I didn't tell anyone. How do you bring that up? Hey, I think there's a man who stands outside my window at night and stares at me. They'd think I was imagining it, or worse, that I wanted him there. So I kept my mouth shut. Night 3, I tried to ignore him. I closed the blinds, turned off the lights, buried myself under my blanket. But at 2 a.m., I felt it, this itch at the back of my mind. I knew he was there. I could picture him perfectly, standing beneath the streetlight, eyes locked on my window. I swear I heard something that time too, like a soft shuffle on the pavement, a shoe scuffing the curb. But when I looked out, he hadn't moved. It became a ritual. Every night, I'd check at 2 a.m., and there he'd be. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of his face in the dim light. Pale skin, dark eyes, a mouth that didn't seem quite right. Like it was stuck halfway between a smile and a grimace. Sometimes I'd see nothing but the shape of him, backlit by the weak glow of the streetlight, and that was somehow worse. Last night, I decided to test him. I turned off all my lights, grabbed my phone, and crept down the stairs in my socks. My plan was to get close enough to see his face, maybe to prove to myself that he was real, that he was just some weirdo and not something else. I pushed open the lobby door as quietly as I could. The night air was cold on my face. The streetlight buzzed overhead, casting a circle of yellow on the cracked asphalt. He was there, closer than I thought, just a few steps from the curb. He didn't look at me right away. He was staring at my window, even though I wasn't up there anymore. I took a step forward. His head snapped toward me so fast, I nearly fell backwards. We locked eyes for the first time. Really locked eyes. And I swear to you, it was like staring into the mouth of a cave. There was no recognition in his face, no anger, no emotion at all. Just hunger. I couldn't move. My feet rooted to the concrete. My breath came out in white puffs. He didn't take a single step toward me, but somehow I felt him close the distance anyway. It was like he was already inside my head, standing behind my eyes. Then he smiled. I think that was worse than anything. His lips cracked wide, too wide, stretching into a grin that showed every tooth in his mouth. Too many teeth. I ran. I don't remember getting back inside. Don't remember slamming the door or scrambling up the stairs. I just remember my back against my bedroom door, heart hammering so hard I thought it would break my ribs. When I finally dared to look out the window again, he was gone. The streetlight flickered, buzzing like an angry wasp. The street was empty. But I know he'll be back tonight. And I don't think he's going to stay on the street anymore. I didn't leave my apartment the next day. I sat at my desk by the window, the blinds half drawn, watching the street below like a hawk. Every shadow, every passing pedestrian made my pulse race. I called in sick to work and ignored the string of texts from my boss. How could I explain? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was homeless, some drifter who'd found a spot under the only working streetlight. But that didn't explain how he never moved, or the way he smiled, or the fact that I'd never seen him during the day, only when the clock hit 2 in the morning, as if he were waiting for the world to go dark enough to come out. When the sun began to set, I felt the fear crawl up my throat like bile. I thought about taping black trash bags over my windows or boarding them up with plywood. But that felt like an admission that he was winning, that he had power over me. So instead, I sat in my living room with every light on, a baseball bat across my knees, and a pot of coffee to keep me awake. At 1:55 a.m., I killed the lights and crept to the window. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my phone. I peered through the gap in the blinds. He was already there, closer this time. Not on the street, but halfway up the sidewalk that led to my building's front door. He stood just outside the pool of light from the street lamp, so I could only make out the outline of him. That long coat, those arms hanging loose at his sides. I could tell he was staring up at my window again, but the angle was different now, steeper. I pulled the blinds shut, but that didn't stop me from feeling his eyes on me. I pressed my back against the wall, the bat clenched so tight in my hands that my knuckles turned white. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Time crawled by. Every creak of the old pipes, every groan of the floorboards made me flinch. Around 3 a.m., I cracked the blinds open again. He was gone. I should have felt relief, but instead I felt watched. Like he was inside the walls now, pacing just out of sight. The next day, I bought a security camera. One of those cheap motion-activated ones you can sync to your phone. I set it up to point at the front entrance. Maybe if I could catch him on video, I could show it to someone. The police, my landlord, anyone who might believe me. That night, I couldn't help myself. I stayed glued to the live feed, watching the grainy black and white image of the sidewalk. Midnight passed. 1 o'clock. Nothing. I dozed off in my chair, the phone still clutched in my hand. A ping jolted me awake. Motion detected. 2:01 a.m. I held my breath as the image refreshed. He was there, right at the front door this time. His face was hidden in the shadow of his collar, but I could see the shape of his grin, wide, splitting his face like an open wound. He raised his hand, not to knock, but to rest his palm flat against the glass. Slowly, deliberately, he leaned forward until his forehead pressed against the door. I should have called the police. I should have done anything but just sit there, staring. But I couldn't move. I watched him stand like that for 20 minutes, unmoving, unblinking, breathing fog onto the glass. Then, without warning, the feed cut to static. I scrambled to reset the camera, but the app wouldn't load. When it finally flickered back on, he was gone. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I checked the door. No fingerprints. No footprints in the thin layer of dust on the concrete stoop. Nothing. It was like he'd never been there. Like I dreamed it. I called my landlord and asked if any other tenants had reported strange people loitering around the building. He laughed, told me to get some rest. Said this neighborhood was safe. Always had been, always would be. But that night, when I checked the camera, I found something new. A small shape taped to the outside of the glass door. A scrap of paper flapping in the breeze. I crept downstairs in my slippers and cracked the door open just enough to grab it. It was a Polaroid. A photo of me, sleeping. I stumbled back inside and locked every bolt, my heart drumming so loud I was sure it would wake the neighbors. I turned the Polaroid over. On the back, in shaky block letters, were 3 words. You saw me. I ripped it up and flushed the pieces down the toilet. I don't know why. Like it would erase what he did. Like it would keep him from coming closer. I haven't checked the camera since. I don't want to see where he'll be tonight. But I know he's coming. I hear footsteps in the hallway now, slow, deliberate, like someone dragging their feet across the worn carpet outside my door. Every creak of the floorboards makes my blood run cold. I've pushed my dresser against the door, wedged a chair under the knob. But it won't matter if he wants in. If he wants me. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days after I found the Polaroid. I couldn't. Every time I thought about stepping into the hallway, I heard footsteps on the other side of the door, faint, shuffling, as if they were waiting for me to make the first move. I barely ate. I dozed off in short, restless snatches, always jolting awake with the image of that grin seared into my brain. Sometimes I'd think I heard him whispering through the walls, words I couldn't make out, but they slithered into my dreams all the same. On the fourth day, I cracked. I called my sister, Erin. She lives across town, in a house with big windows and a golden retriever named Max. She's always been the practical one, the fixer. I told her everything, or as much as I could without sounding completely insane. She didn't laugh. She didn't tell me I was imagining it. She just said, "Pack a bag. I'm coming to get you." I wanted to cry. Relief, maybe. Or exhaustion. She showed up 30 minutes later. I watched her car pull up from my window. An ordinary, mundane sight that felt unreal after nights of staring into that hungry grin. I grabbed my backpack, phone charger, a change of clothes. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty, but it smelled wrong. Like damp earth. Like something had been buried under the carpet for years and was finally seeping through. I didn't wait around to find out more. I bolted down the stairs 2 at a time, half expecting to see him standing in the lobby. But it was empty, just the rattling hum of the vending machine and the flicker of the exit sign. Erin gave me a tight hug when I climbed into her car. "You look like hell," she said gently. "Thanks." Max barked from the back seat, tail wagging like he had no idea anything was wrong in the world. For a few blessed moments, I believed that maybe I really was just paranoid. That maybe I'd show up at Erin's place, get a few nights of real sleep, and wake up to find the world normal again. Her house smelled like coffee and cinnamon candles. Comforting, warm, safe. She made up the guest room for me. Max curled up at my feet, and for the first time in days, I felt my eyelids grow heavy without that burning itch of fear behind them. I woke up around 2 a.m., out of sheer habit. The house was dark and still. Max lifted his head, sniffed the air, and let out a low whine. I stroked his fur, whispering that it was okay. But I didn't believe it. I crept to the window overlooking Erin's front yard. The street was empty, the familiar suburban calm of trimmed hedges and parked cars. No streetlight flickering. No cracked pavement. No man standing there. I almost laughed at myself. Almost. Then Max growled. A low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the floorboards. He was staring at the bedroom door, ears flat, teeth bared. I froze, held my breath. There it was again, that soft, deliberate shuffle of footsteps in the hallway. The same sound I'd heard outside my apartment door. I pressed my ear to the wood. Whoever, whatever, it was moving slowly, dragging something across the floor. The footsteps stopped right outside. Max barked once, sharp and terrified, then backed into the corner, tail tucked. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing it to go away. After what felt like hours, the footsteps receded. Silence settled back over the house, heavy and oppressive. I must have fallen asleep at some point because the next thing I remember is Erin shaking me awake. Sunlight streamed through the window, birds chirping like nothing had happened. I opened my mouth to tell her, but the words died on my tongue. What could I say? That the man had followed me here? That I'd brought him into her safe suburban bubble? Instead, I lied. Slept like a baby. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she didn't push. That afternoon, I tried to show her the security cam footage from my apartment. But when I opened the app, every clip was gone. Every recording from the last 2 weeks, deleted. All that was left was a single file. A few seconds of black static with the faint outline of a face flickering in and out. His face. I slammed the laptop shut before Erin could see it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Max wouldn't come near me anymore. He slept outside the room, whimpering every time he heard a creak. I thought about the streetlight back home, the way it cast him in that sickly yellow glow. I thought about the Polaroid. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. No words. Just a photo. It was my sister's front yard, taken from just beyond the edge of the porch light. A figure stood in the shadows, too dark to see clearly, but I knew that outline. That coat. That grin. My mouth went dry. I bolted to the window. The yard was empty. I didn't sleep at all after that. I sat with my back against the wall, phone clutched in my hands, waiting for another message that never came. By dawn, I knew I couldn't stay. I was dragging this thing with me. I didn't know what he wanted, but I knew he wouldn't stop at me. I couldn't risk Erin. So I packed my bag again, kissed her sleeping forehead, and slipped out before the sun had fully risen. I caught a bus across town, back to my apartment, back to the streetlight. Back to him. Because I think he wants me to come home. And part of me is starting to wonder if I want it too. The bus ride back to my apartment felt like a funeral procession. The city slid by in gray smears, buildings half shrouded in fog, people with heads down, faces hidden behind hoods and umbrellas. I sat by the window, my bag clutched in my lap, feeling the weight of something pressing against my chest. Not just fear, but inevitability. I kept checking my phone, half expecting another photo to appear. But it stayed stubbornly black, the battery ticking down percentage by percentage like the last grains of sand in an hourglass. By the time I reached my block, the sun was already dipping behind the buildings. That familiar, flickering streetlight buzzed at the end of the cracked sidewalk, throwing its weak halo onto the damp concrete. He wasn't there yet, but I felt him, like a static charge under my skin. Inside, my apartment smelled stale and foreign, as if it hadn't belonged to me for a long time. The furniture looked the same, but off somehow, pushed a few inches out of place, angles just wrong enough to make my teeth itch. My coffee mug was on the counter, but it was cracked down the side. I didn't remember it being cracked when I left. I checked the locks. Deadbolt, chain, extra latch I'd installed myself, all intact. I stood in the middle of my living room, listening. Nothing but the hum of the refrigerator. No footsteps. No whispers. I dropped my bag by the couch and peeked through the blinds. The street was empty. A car rolled by, headlights sweeping across the bus stop shelter. No man under the streetlight. Not yet. For a moment, I dared to believe I'd imagined it all. Stress. Lack of sleep. A mind trying to make sense of shadows and half-glimpsed figures. But when I turned back to the room, something was different. There was a photo on my coffee table, one I'd never seen before. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was a picture of my building, taken from the street, the same angle I'd see if I were standing under the flickering lamp. But in the photo, my window was wide open. And in the window, there was someone standing, not me, but a figure in a dark coat, grinning. I dropped the photo like it burned. My pulse thudded in my temples, a drumbeat of panic that made the edges of the room blur. I ran to my bedroom. The window was shut tight, the blinds drawn. But when I peeked outside, I felt him there. Close. Closer than ever. The clock read 1:57 a.m. I sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the door. I could almost hear him breathing on the other side. I thought about Erin, about how I'd dragged this thing to her home. What would have happened if I'd stayed? Would he have gone inside? My phone buzzed. Another text from the same unknown number. No words. Just another photo. This one was of my hallway, taken from just outside my door. My doorframe glowed in the camera flash, but the rest was in shadow, except for a smear of a grin, hovering just out of the light. I squeezed my eyes shut. I could feel him standing there. The thin sliver of wood between us felt like tissue paper. My hand drifted to the baseball bat leaning against the wall. What good would it do? A soft scrape made my eyes snap open. The doorknob twisted. Once. Twice. Slow testing. The chair wedged under the knob vibrated with each tiny motion. He was trying to get in. I held my breath, praying the locks would hold. The knob stilled. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. I leaned closer, pressing my ear to the door. Nothing. No footsteps retreating. No whisper of cloth brushing the hallway walls. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Minutes? Hours. When I finally dared to move, I found myself standing at the window again, blinds cracked just enough to see the street. He was back under the streetlight, but closer than before, standing in the middle of the sidewalk directly beneath my window, head tilted so far back I wondered how his neck didn't snap. His grin stretched impossibly wide, eyes two black pits that drank in every flicker of light. Then he raised his hand, not to wave, not to gesture me down. He just lifted his arm until his palm faced me, fingers spread wide. I felt my own hand lift in response, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. I slammed the blinds shut so hard they rattled in their brackets. My heartbeat was thunder in my skull. I stumbled back, tripped over my coffee table, and hit the floor hard enough to knock the wind out of me. I lay there, staring at the ceiling. I knew then that this wouldn't end with him leaving. He wasn't going to stand on the street forever. He was waiting for something, or someone, to invite him in. And I think, deep down, I already had. I crawled to the door, pressed my ear against it one last time. This time, the other side was silent. No footsteps. No scraping. Nothing. But I swear I could feel him smiling. teeth bared just inches away from the wood. And I realized, with a sick twist of my gut, that the locks, the chains, the chair under the knob, none of it mattered. He was already inside. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember getting off the floor or dragging myself to bed. But at some point, the darkness behind my eyelids became thicker than sleep, a place I couldn't wake up from, no matter how hard I struggled. In the dream, if it was a dream, I was standing on the street outside my building, right under the flickering streetlight. The asphalt gleamed wet beneath my shoes. The whole block was empty, hushed like a graveyard. And across from me, he stood, that figure in the dark coat, hands at his sides, grin splitting his face into halves. But this time, he was different. Closer. Clearer. The grin didn't stop at the corners of his mouth. It climbed up, splitting his cheeks, his jaw cracking wider until I thought his head might split in two. His eyes were pits, deep enough that if I stepped closer, I'd tumble right in. He raised his hand. I didn't try to stop mine from doing the same. Our palms mirrored each other perfectly, a strange, twisted echo. And when he lowered his arm, I felt my feet move on their own. I crossed the street toward him. My body felt weightless, my pulse strangely calm. Up close, the smell of him hit me. Damp soil, rotting leaves, the sweetness of something dead too long in the sun. But beneath it all, something else, the sharp metallic tang of blood. He leaned forward until his grin was inches from my face. His voice, I didn't hear it so much as feel it, scraping across my mind like rusted nails. "You see me?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. He stepped closer, or maybe I stepped into him. The world flickered. For a moment, I was looking through his eyes, seeing myself, small, trembling, insignificant. Then I was back in my bed, gasping for air, the taste of dirt on my tongue. I stumbled to the bathroom and flipped on the light. My reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed, pale, sweat-slicked hair plastered to my forehead. But it wasn't right. My mouth looked stretched, the corners too wide, my lips raw like I'd been grinning in my sleep. I pressed trembling fingers to the glass. My reflection didn't move in sync. It lagged, just a heartbeat behind, mouth twitching in a half-smile before I could stop it. I smashed the mirror. Shards rained into the sink, catching the light in 1,000 tiny grins. For the rest of the day, I wandered the apartment like a ghost. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I just waited, because I knew he was coming. He'd stood on the street long enough. He'd waited for me to see him, really see him. And now that I had, the street was no longer enough. At dusk, I opened my front door. No locks, no chain, no barricade. Just the hallway stretching out like a dark throat. I stood there, breathing in the stale air, feeling it coil in my lungs. I walked down the stairs barefoot, each step colder than the last. Outside, the streetlight flickered overhead, casting everything in its sickly glow. And there he was, standing in the exact spot where I'd first seen him. The spot that had become his stage, his altar. But tonight, he didn't look up at my window. He looked straight at me. The grin split wide, eyes bottomless. He didn't move toward me. He didn't have to. I stepped into the circle of light with him. The hum of the bulb above us buzzed in my bones. Up close, his skin was pale and stretched thin, veins pulsing just beneath the surface like worms. His breath came out in wet, rattling gasps. "Do you know me now?" he rasped. The words weren't spoken. They shivered inside my skull, crawling under my skin. "Yes," I whispered. The word tasted like ash. His grin widened. If that was possible. He leaned in, pressing his cracked lips to my ear. "Then stand." He stepped back. The streetlight overhead flared once, then died, plunging the block into darkness so thick I thought I'd suffocate. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Somewhere in the shadows, I heard footsteps receding, his footsteps, dragging that rotten smell with them. But he didn't take it all. He left something behind, coiled up inside me like a worm burrowing deeper and deeper. When the light flickered back to life, I realized I was still standing there, arms at my sides, head tilted back, eyes locked on my own empty window 4 floors up. And somewhere inside my skull, a grin unfurled like a blooming flower. I don't know how long I've been here. Minutes? Hours? Days? The street is quiet. The buses stopped coming. The cars don't pass this way anymore. The world is smaller now, just the cracked asphalt beneath my feet, the dying streetlight buzzing overhead, and the soft hush of my own breath echoing back from darkened windows. Sometimes, late at night, I see people peek out through the blinds, faces pale, eyes wide, wondering why I'm here, why I'm waiting. And when they see me, really see me, I feel it. The grin splits wider, because now I'm the one standing on the street. And someday soon, one of them will come down and stand with me.